ice, sure. We're pretty much ready. It's 2 minutes past.
Just trying to get the phone set up.
Ready?
We are ready.
Game face. Hello, Poppet.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
I don't know.
So we are the Poppets. Hello.
Welcome to our third.
Is it third?
It's our third.
Feels like about 8.
Virtual tasting from our house in Manchester. So welcome. This is our third one. We kept getting asked to do another one, so we did our first one, and then more and more people wanted to join in. So
we thought, fuck it.
This is our last one that we're going to do.
Let's go for a record.
So we thought let's make it a big one. I think we should also start by saying thank you to Vicky Patterson and Philip Schofield for sharing this for us. Because
definitely helped.
It's helped us because this one we are supporting a charity that's quite close to our hearts with this one. So every year as a business we pick a national and a regional charity that we support through various different things. And one of the ones that we've supported this year is Big Change Manchester, which supports homeless people in and around the city. 20% of profits from tonight's tasting will go to Big Change Manchester next week, which is really close to our hearts.
Cool. Right.
Gin.
Let's get a drink. So, what?
Oh no, I was just going to say, if you have any questions...
Now you're interrupting me.
Yeah, I am.
Brilliant.
If you have any questions, we've got some of our wonderful team on hand on Instagram and on Facebook, just to try and answer any questions that you've got and also kind of send them over to us. So if you see me scoot over, it's because I'm just checking some questions. Go.
So, come back.
Sorry.
So this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to go through each of the gins. We're going to do a sample. I'd like to try it straight when we first start, just because it will give you that sort of level of sort of complexity, enable you to sort of taste all the sort of different botanicals in there. I'm not necessarily saying you should start drinking all of your drinks straight from now on, because it might get a little bit loose, a little bit quick. But then we're going to pair them all with a different tonic. We're going to talk about garnish. I think we're going to talk about how we make the gin. I assume we are. Jen's got notes. How we make the gin, how we started it actually from this room. But, you know, let's not fuck around.
Yeah,
let's get a drink.
Let's get everyone a drink.
Jen will remind everyone about drinking responsibly.
Yeah, so we are going through 4 gins today. And so I am aware that we do say that this is an hour, and potentially drinking 4 gins might be a bit much for some people, not so much for Seb.
I'm fine.
The other thing that we also must say...
Simply must.
Shut up. We are going to...
I've ruined the prize already.
Well, no, this isn't.
I can't help it.
Seb interrupts me a lot. We are if you take a photo, a cheers photo, and send it on social media, we will be picking a winner probably on Monday now. And the winner will receive. We were going to just do a full bottle of each of the 4 gins, but we thought, fuck it, we'll give a bottle from the whole range. So basically, every gin that you can see here today, someone will win.
Well, that's vodka as well.
And the vodka. Someone will win every single bottle. And a case of each of the tonics that we go through today, and also a case of our a case of our raspberry and Franklin's Sicilian lemon tonic. So
in a can.
In a can.
Yeah.
So Franklin's very kindly donated some tonic and some cans as well.
So anyway,
let's get some gin.
Yeah, because we're all here to try some gin. So I'd ask you to all sort of split your 50 ml measure between 2 of you if you're sharing. If not, get it all in a glass. So what we're going to do is So this is my favourite gin. Shouldn't have a favourite child, but I do. It's this one. So this is our signature.
Not our actual child.
Not our actual child. This is much better. So this is our signature. It's the first gin we ever came up with, and it was actually created and distilled in this room. But we'll come on to that in a bit. So when you get it on the nose, so you should get a lovely bit of juniper and a lot of citrus on the nose. I wish I'd not put ice in now, yeah, that's true. But, so when you get it through your mouth, you'll start getting the middle part with like an earthiness. And then on the finish, you'll get a slight sort of sweetness, which is actually licorice and almond, which is two of our botanicals that we put in there to help sort of the sweeter sort of style. So we say it's more of a contemporary style gin. The middle part that you got, where it's a bit earthy, is actually two of our key botanicals that go into all of the products we've ever produced, which is
dandelion and burdock. So it is a nod to our. So basically, it's quite a northern thing, dandelion and burdock. For those of you that don't know it, my childhood at the weekend was fish and chips and a can of D&B. So yeah, it's a nod to kind of the sort of the northern roots, if you like.
And it also grows on waterways, and obviously there's rivers that flow through Manchester and all the canals, which is why Manchester is so prominent and was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. So it's quite nice. It actually grows next to the water as well.
Yes.
So the tonic we're going to use with this is Franklin's Light Tonic. So we would always say that if you're trying a gin and you want to sort of get sort of the most flavour from it, it's always best to have it with a naturally light product because there's not too much quinine in there and there's not too many other flavours in there that will mean that you can actually sort of get the full flavour of the gin. So Jen's holding up garnish now.
So garnish, I think.
We've all had an argument about garnish. I'm just going to keep interrupting you tonight.
No, you are.
Carry on.
I've got used to it. Sam and I have different ways to drink our signature gin. So we've got it with light tonic today, and Seb prefers to serve with a slice of grapefruit, which is quite a sort of classic way to have it, I suppose, because you get that kind of dry bitterness from the grapefruit.
I'm going in with a wedge.
I like it ever so slightly sweeter, so I have it with orange peel. And I also, especially kind of during summer, I actually have our signature gin with Fever Tree Mediterranean, but we're going to try that a bit later on with another gin. So yeah, it's different ways of kind of bringing out, garnishes give different ways of bringing out flavours from the gins that you're trying. So yeah, just different expressions really.
Oh, just got it from the garden. She also has it with rosemary, so. But yeah, in terms of garnish, we always say that the most important thing, I know I just stuck it in there. The most important thing with a garnish is that you actually like it. So there's no point always saying we recommend pink grapefruit, and if you hate grapefruit, there's no point putting it in your gin because it's not going to make it any better for you. So the most important thing is that you know your own palate, and the best thing to do is when you're looking at what sort of things can go as a garnish that might complement a gin, look at what the sort of key botanicals and flavours are. So if there's some herbs or spices in there, you might want to go for, like say, some herbs. If it's a really citrusy gin, you wouldn't necessarily use the same citrus that's in the gin. You might want to try and use something a little bit different. So that's it. So I wish I'd not run.
It's not that far.
It's not that far. I've just not done any exercise during lockdown.
It's literally there. So what we thought we'd do now is, I suppose, Tony.
So by the way, cheers. Cheers everyone.
Cheers.
And I'm pretty sure. Hang on. We should say that the record stands at 700 and how many is it?
62, I think.
So we've already got over 1,000 people tuned in. So that means we're officially record breakers.
Oh, yeah.
So cheers. Congratulations. Medals will be in the post. We've got medals, right?
So what I thought we'd do is tell you a little bit about us, how we came to make Manchester Gin. And I suppose a little bit about the sort of history of the brand really. So
tell me more.
Seb and I met flipping heck.
Wow.
Over 7 years ago.
Yeah.
In a bar in Manchester.
So I'll tell the story. You're doing it wrong. So it was it was a Wednesday.
I love you.
And I love you too. And it was 1:30 on a Wednesday morning, so it was a school night. I was out with two of my friends, and they were both chatting up two women, and I hadn't said a word for about 2 minutes, and then this is where the real sort of love story starts behind our brand. I said, and it's a direct quote, and you can't take it back. I didn't know I'd tell this story 1,000 times over. But I actually said, I'm going to go speak to the nearest unattended woman.
And that was me.
That was her. And the first thing I ever said to her is, what are you drinking? And the first thing and the first word she ever said to me?
Gin and tonic.
And that would have been okay had it not been for the fact we're in a rum tiki bar. So that started our first ever conversation, and it quickly descended into a very particular conversation about who knew more about gin, and we were basically trying to outdo each other at every point during this. And so it got to about 2 o'clock in the morning when Jen thought she had me beaten, and she said, well, my favourite gin is Monkey 47. And I famously said, I've got a bottle at home. So to this day, we still don't know whether I had a bottle or not, but long story short, Jen fell in love with me. And yeah, here we are. So it was, what? 4 years ago? But it was our 4th birthday, wasn't it? Last 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
We're really good at celebrating birthdays in this house.
So yeah.
So talk us through the gin.
12th of May, we launched our first ever bottle of gin. It was a Thursday, wasn't it?
It was a Thursday because I took the Friday off work.
Yeah, we basically on the Friday, both of us took the day off work and just started walking around Manchester with some bottles of gin, asking people in shops, bars and restaurants to try it to see if they wanted to stock it.
Yeah. Well, our first ever sale was to a little shop called Tiny's Tipple in Chorlton. Walked in there, they bought the massive selection of 1 bottle. And we actually got a phone call, I think it must have been 50, 60 seconds later, to say, can we go back and drop another one off? Because the first bottle had been bought.
Yeah.
So that's where it sort of all started. But the way we sort of came into distilling, so we don't have a background in the drinks industry. I work for a property developer. Jen ran a marketing agency. We were going to open a bar, and in researching opening this bar, we came across small batch gin distillation. And basically we thought, when we first saw it, so we were shown it in the back room of a pub in Sheffield actually, and it was basically done on a small 30 litre still, and as soon as we saw it, it was the sort of proverbial light bulb moment, because we, like possibly some of you guys watching tonight, thought that to create a gin and start a brand that you have to be, in a factory, you have to have 10, 15, 20 people working on it, but we actually, when we saw that, we actually went and bought a 60 litre still, and it was in this room. So when it was our dining room, before we had our little baby boy, that we actually set up our brand. And so this room is 3 metres by 4 metres long, and in the space of 15 months, distilling part-time, because we both had full-time jobs, we actually managed to produce just over 25,000 bottles of gin from this room.
Yeah.
Which is mental.
Yeah. So we had the stills.
Here. So this was a wall.
Yeah.
If you can see me still.
And we used to have a window there, and in front of the windows we had our first still, which was called Wendy, which was 60 litres, and she was about this big. And then we put in, when kind of demand started getting bigger, we got a second still called Victoria, after Victoria Wood, and she was 120 litres, and she went sort of over that side, didn't she?
Yeah.
And we plumbed them both in to an outside tap. So
yeah. So
you need a constant cold water feed in order to condense the liquid.
So this is basically a very small version of the still that we started with. I mean, this is the one that we started with to actually develop the recipes, and these are the kind of stills we actually use in our gin school when people are making their own gin. So this is genuinely, it's as big as my head. That's the size of still we started on, and that's the kind of still that we developed the recipe on. So the condenser that Jen was talking about is this, where you pump cold water into it. But as Jen said, we actually had it plumbed, we had it a hose pipe going through the dining room door, through the kitchen, through the cat flap to the outside tap. And it meant that the cat could come in of an evening but couldn't leave in the morning. So you'd find her like sort of scratching at the doorpost going, please let me out. So yeah, that's how we started.
So yeah, this is our signature gin. Hopefully you're enjoying it. When you add tonic to it, I think you get more of the sort of citrus notes coming through, and you get that kind of classic sort of juniper tone in there as well. So. And
you'll also be glad to know, or I am anyway, that this is actually one of the most awarded gins in the world. So from this room we run the Spirit Masters Gold Medal and the International Wine and Spirits Gold Medal.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago we entered it for the San Francisco Spirits Competition, which is like the Oscars of the sort of spirits world. And it was really lucky in the fact that it came, well, not lucky, but we're really privileged that it came away with a double gold, which means that both independent judging panels, all the judges scored it as a gold, which gives you a double gold.
Yeah.
So we're super proud of that, and it's the first gin we made, and it will always be my baby anyway.
Last year, or even earlier this year, we also got double gold again at the China Wine and Spirits competition as well. So yeah.
A rich heritage. So cheers. So we're about time. So we're not going to plough through these because we're talking as well. So we're going to do the godforsaken thing of waste gin. Mummy?
Yeah. Seems criminal.
It is criminal, but we do own a distillery and we've got plenty of gin. So, next on the roster... Roster?
Roster. You've gone with roster. Okay.
Is it a lecture, this? Next up...
Yeah. The next gin.
The next one is our raspberry infused gin. So this was the second gin we ever created. And again, was all distilled and bottled in this dining room to start with. I'm going to let you talk through this one, Poppet. So we'll come on to later why I call her Poppet. And at some point you'll probably hear me call her Mummy. But that's just, we do have a child, it's not a weird thing. Although all my friends think it's weird. So...
We're trying to get him to say Mummy and Daddy at the moment.
Let's get Facebook and Instagram to decide whether it is appropriate that without our son here, I still call her Mummy. Don't know. So anyway, carry on.
So this is our raspberry infused. This is the second gin that we ever produced.
Said that.
I would say I think this is 3.5 years old now.
It came out in December 2016, which is the worst time to launch a gin if you're already at capacity and you're doing it in your dining room. So we ended up having to distill through the night. So we'd put the still on at 7 at night, we'd go to bed at 11, we'd get up at 2, we'd get up at 4, we'd get up at 6, turn it off at 7, I'd go to work, Jen would then go off and start selling the gin, and then we'd come home together and bottle it and label it all. It was hell on earth. But it was the training for a little baby boy. So, but carry on.
So, this is the second one that we produced. So it's our, it's more of an old Tom style.
Old Tom style, you say?
I'm glad you asked. So our signature gin is quite a classic London Dry style gin.
London Dry?
So London Dry doesn't have to be made in London.
What?
Shut up. I'm going to pour it over your head.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be made in London. It means that basically after distillation nothing is added to the gin other than water or alcohol. So it stems back to when basically when people were kind of making like bathtub gin in homes in the
1700s?
Yeah.
Not the 1900s, that was quite recently. In the 1700s.
1700s.
So in 1710, there was 1 in 4 houses in London were making their own gin. And it was actually cheaper to buy gin than it was to buy clean drinking water, which is why kids were pissed all the time.
Yeah, so those that could afford a quality spirit always went for a London Dry because if it was a poor quality spirit, generally they would mask the fact that it wasn't very good by sweetening it with things like honey and what have you. So those that could afford a quality spirit would turn their nose up at anything slightly sweeter and would go for a London Dry style.
I like the way you say London Dry style. It's a very sort of slightly going down steps with it.
So whereas now
London Dry style.
It doesn't matter as much now because production methods are obviously much more advanced and
talk us through the gin. People are thirsty.
I know. So on the nose, you should get quite a sort of floral note on the nose. And then when you...
Love that sweetness from the raspberry as well. So you get that sort of... So the floral part, when you actually try it, is actually when we distill with the raspberries, that's when you get that sort of florality.
Florality, throw that in there.
Nice, I haven't used viscosity yet, but I'll get to that. So you get that sort of florality when you distill with it. When we macerate with raspberries afterwards, that's where you get the sort of sweetness from the raspberry coming through. And what's really interesting about this is that when you actually add a little bit of tonic, it actually tastes more of raspberry. And as weird as that sounds, even though you're diluting it, what's actually happening is, when you can't hear me, or you reply to me. When you add water to whiskey, it's the same thing, that it opens up the full sort of bouquet of the flavour. And the same with this, so when you add tonic to this, it just lifts it a little bit. So, go.
I was just going to say, we've got a couple of different tonics with this. So,
Was that loud?
I I say raspberry's my day gin. So when the sun's shining and
Today?
Yeah.
Have you had one today?
I have had one today. But I love it with Franklin's Sicilian lemon tonic. So that's basically one of my favourite ways to drink our raspberry gin. But some of you will have our lemon tonic, some of you will have Mediterranean. So again,
So you're mixing this with either the Mediterranean tonic or the lemon tonic.
Yes, correct. Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic's got slightly less quinine.
Half the quinine.
So it actually feels ever so slightly sweeter as well. So it works really well with the raspberry.
Yeah.
But our raspberry gin is very versatile. So it actually works really well with elderflower tonic as well, or just a classic Indian tonic for a classic way to have it.
A classic one to have a classic. Yeah. I thought you were going down a classic route.
I couldn't
and
step
just
back
couldn't
from
stop saying classic. So what's next on the agenda?
So
agenda.
we were going to talk about actually how we make gin and the art of distilling, I suppose.
The art of distilling.
Going for
wow.
it. Because we always liken it to cooking. So we love cooking. We love the reason that we kind of wanted a business together was because we spend a hell of a lot of time eating and drinking. And we wanted a business that allowed us to do that together.
So thank you guys.
Yeah. So
we've not done garnish.
Oh, garnish.
We didn't do garnish. Shit. So as my glamorous assistant goes and grabs garnish, so with this we would just simply recommend any sort of fruit you've got in. Obviously no one should be making special journeys for fruit.
Any berries.
So yeah, we're raiding our little boy's fruit stash. So we're going some raspberries. Do you have any mint, Mummy?
No, we don't have any mint.
We didn't have any mint in, so ideally we'd like a bit of mint in there as well, but it's Corona times, what does it matter? So, what? I won't fall fancy free. Anyway, so...
Any berries work really well with this, because it's, nice and juicy.
And it's 1 in 5 a day.
Yeah.
So when we get to... Or do you want to talk through distilling?
Yeah.
I get told off a lot for talking over Jen, and I'm just going to do it. So... This, like I say, this is a 2.5 litre still, but this will produce about 95% of the flavour and the quality that we produce this gin in our 1,000 litre still. So that's what I love about making gin, is that, like Jen says, it is an art, but once you've got the recipe, it's an amazing thing to sort of produce. So into the still, so we do it a very traditional way. It's been done this way for, since 500 BC or something ridiculous. So, into the pot. So this is where Jen says it's like cooking. So it's a bit like a slow cooker is the best way to describe making gin. So we put in 25 litres, or in this one, let's say a litre, of neutral grain spirit, which is NGS or ethanol. Another way to say it is 96% vodka.
Yeah.
So, and then what we do is we then dilute that down to about 48%. So we do a 50-50. It's called charging in the distilling world, but I hate that term. So you load it 50-50. So what you've got in there now is about 2 litres of about 48% vodka, essentially. And that's the thing about gin. All gin is redistilled vodka. So it's just much more flavourful, much sort of smoother spirit. So we put all of our botanicals into the pot, or the still, I should say. And then we pop the lid on, and then we heat from the bottom. And what happens with all the science part of distilling is that alcohol has a lower boiling temperature than water. So alcohol evaporates at about 78 to 81 degrees. So when you're heating it up, it doesn't exceed sort of 85, 90 degrees until most of the alcohol's gone. So it means that you're distilling all the alcohol first and leaving the water behind. So obviously the key thing that makes gin is juniper berry, which we have some here. I mean, you can't smell it, you can see it. Everyone should know juniper berry if you're doing a gin tasting, really.
Well, people might not.
Some people put those in the gin as a garnish.
Yeah.
Don't agree with that.
For us, like a garnish should be there to enhance the flavours that are already in the drink, or to bring something out in terms of the nose that you get as you're drinking it. And for me, if you put juniper berry in,
floating around in your drink.
Just ends up.
So anyone that's got it in there now, I apologise. Just fish them out. We won't say any more. So we put all the botanicals in here, and then, like I say, we heat, and then it comes down the condenser into this coil, and you've got something called a counter current flow, and basically it cools the liquid down from a steam to room temperature, and then you can dilute that down. It distills off at about 78%, but you can dilute that down to your given percentage. And this is what I sort of love about distilling, is that it's all about a fine balance, and this is why we ask you to try the gin straight, because a gin should take you on a little journey when you try it. You don't want it to be sort of hit of juniper and citrus and then gone. You want that sort of journey, and that's when you get into the real sort of art of distilling. And to give you an example, like, we've changed our signature recipe by about 4 grams in its entirety from when we started, and that's 4 grams to make 100 bottles. The biggest difference we made was we changed. No, keep leaning on the hob. Who put the hob here? We changed pepper by 1 gram, and that's per 100 bottles, which means that per bottle we changed the recipe by 0.001 gram, which means that per sip you've changed it by 0.0001 gram. Bore off. It's interesting to me, alright? I hate you. We're not doing this again, so this is the last one. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought now, and I can't go cut and restart. Basically, gin's delicious. No, so you pour your botanicals in there, and the thing about making different gins, and the reason there's so many different gins out there, is that anything that grows is technically a botanical. So there's something like 6 billion plants on this earth, which means there's 6 billion different botanicals you can use. So if you live near the seaside, use some seaweed or some sea buckthorn. If you live in the hills, use some heather or use some moss. Well, not moss, it's a bit nasty. But it's just amazing, and that's the sort of great thing about gin at the moment, is that, and it has been for the last sort of 3 or 4 years, there's such a resurgence in people taking interest in, like, saying what grows near them, and sort of foraging different parts of the gin, the botanicals, to make a really, beautiful, specific gin for that area. So yeah.
So I was just going to mention, so this is... So before we kind of had our own custom bottle made, which is all lovely. It's got all the hexagons.
So just quickly, if no one knows the B.
Oh yeah, it's a very good point actually.
That's why I brought it up.
Not everyone will know that. So on our bottles we have a B. So this is our.
So on your miniature there should be a B, but it'd be pretty small.
Yeah. And so the B is the symbol of Manchester and has been since
It was adopted, I think, late 1800s. I believe.
It symbolises the kind of the work ethic in the mills in the city. And so it was adopted by the council.
Yes.
So all around the city, the kind of the official one for the city looks a bit different. This is our kind of like modern interpretation, if you like. But yeah, it's on all of our bottles. So anyone that has one of our bigger bottles, we put all the honeycomb that was on. So this was our original label that had the honeycomb in the side. So we incorporated that into the glass. And then on the underneath, we have our B as well. I don't know if you can see that. So yeah, before we had this designed anyway, this is what our bottle used to look like. And for anyone that has a very, very early edition, you may notice a spelling mistake.
I'm dyslexic, so I don't proofread stuff, so this is on her. But we printed 1,000 labels, and then the day our designer, after we printed them, said, there's a spelling mistake on there. So the love story on the back of the bottle actually reads on the first 1,000 bottles.
He approached he.
When he approached he and asked her if he could buy her, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what you'll also see is we still batch every one, but we used to put who distilled it on there. So you'll see that one is distilled by P&P, which means pop it and pop it. And that again sounds really lovely. So if you look around our house.
So above our front door, where you normally have like the number, we have
Poppets
P&P.
kitchen, and we've got the Poppets live here. So it all started, and it sounds lovely and sort of sweet, and that we call each other Poppet. But it all started because I wanted to come up with a pet name for Jen it must be about 5 years ago. And then I thought, Sugar Tits will do. Obviously you can imagine Jen's response. So she said that every time I call her Sugar Tits in front of my friends, that she's going to call me Poppet. And thankfully for her, Poppet stuck and Sugar Tits didn't. Yeah. And I don't think it'd fit on the back anyway. But so that's our old bottle for. What are we going on to next, Poppet?
Well, I'm thinking we could do with moving on to Wild Spirit next.
Well, hang on. I mean, you shouldn't neck gin, but. I'm just gonna. Right. Oh, how's everyone else getting on? So yeah, any questions?
No one can answer you.
You interrupted me off camera now. Gets even worse. Worse than having one of those earpieces in. But Philip doesn't have to deal with this, does he? Just let to do his job. He's always done. So anyway, so
Right,
next up is our Wild Spirit gin. So that's this one. So Wild Spirit, and so when I was talking, she's just run to the garden now. So let's see how hot she gets. So when we were talking about before about taking inspiration from what grows around you, this is a really good example of that. So this is probably the most Mancunian of all the gins we produced, and someone very special gets a very special dedication about this gin, because this is all sort of bequeathed to our little dog, Didi. Come
and say hello. She's not so little.
She's not so little, so here she is. So
She's not going to be happy about this.
this is Didi.
Say hi, Didi.
Say hello, Didi. So her formal name is Distillery Dog, and so we got her when we moved out of the house from our dining room distillery to our new premise, well, one of our premises, and this is based around all the dog walks we went on, and we basically were exploring so many different places throughout the city that we'd never been. So Chorlton Water Park, Sale Water Park, and we were just taking inspiration from what grows. So there's like abandoned orchards all around. So silver birch, sage, thyme, lemon balm were all things we saw naturally growing, and so this has all those in. So this is, like I said, this is our sort of homage to walking our dog, and hence why it's called Wild Spirit. So if you divide up, the tonic we're going to use with this one is the Franklin's Rosemary Tonic, which is a really lovely addition. And when I talk about sort of flavours that sort of connect with each other, the sort of herbs in this really go well with the sort of olives and rosemary. So on the nose, you'll see that it's completely different to our signature gin. And that's a very sort of deliberate thing, is that while I would love for everyone to try all four of the gins tonight and love every single one of them, which I'm sure you will, you're going to hopefully like one more than the other. And so this is the complete counterpoint to our signature, which is really citrusy. This is really herbaceous, it's crisp, it's dry.
It's quite creamy as well though.
So yeah, so on the nose,
yeah. You still get kind of juniper on the nose, but you also get like the herbal notes coming through, so you get a bit of like sage coming through on the nose.
Yeah, it's really soft. And what I like about that is, so that's the almond that's in the gin that's actually sort of softened the gin, but it's a completely just sort of different experience to our signature, which has got that sort of citrus and a little bit of spice. This is really subtle and really soft, but really herbaceous and really sort of packs that punch. And so for me, this is sort of, dare I say, more sort of wintry style, and I think it makes a really, really good martini as well.
Yeah.
Really good dirty martini.
We have someone's asked on social media. So someone said, "How do you get the gin to taste the same every time?" Which is a really good question.
Great question. Go get me some ice.
So we weigh all of the botanicals to 2 decimal places. So it's something that we've done since we started. Every single botanical that we weigh goes to 2 decimal places, so we want to ensure that we get a really consistent product. We also use dehydrated botanicals, so rather than using like fresh orange peel or fresh lemon peel where there is different water content, we use dehydrated, which ensures that it's more consistent.
When we first started, so like I said, it's a great question. When we first started, we were using fresh oranges and fresh lemons, basically from the greengrocers, because we weren't using that many when we first started. But what we found is, in sort of October, November time, oranges go really poor. So anyone that works in the cocktail industry or the food industry, or this October, go and buy an orange and peel it back with a peeler. And the oils is what you need for distilling. The oils just aren't really there.
So we used to, whenever we get our orange and lemons, we used to go to Morrison's down the road. And you would find me and Seb, like, in kind of...
You can't do it in today's world, that would be wrong.
September, October, like, when you're getting into winter, so you'd go in and you'd get, like, the fruit, and we'd be scratching it and smelling it just to kind of see, like, how much kind of oils was in there and how much nose from the fruit.
And we never put one back. No. Always bought them all. So this is going with rosemary and black olive tonic, which is by Franklin's, which, like I say, is a really good addition. Jen is just scrabbling around for garnish.
Yeah, scrabbling, you know exactly what I'm going for. So our Wild Spirit gin works really well with blackberries.
We don't have any of those.
We don't. We have a blackberry bush outside, but it's not yet producing fruit. So blueberries are another great alternative. And then
Got some thyme?
I've already got some. So I think it works really well with thyme. This is actually lemon thyme in the garden. I didn't realise when I planted
Jen planted it. Jen's actually got some roots on it. There you go.
So blackberries, blueberries, thyme.
But any herbs you've got,
Yeah.
so even like a sage, like one solemn sage leaf in there would be fine.
You talk about orris and
So yeah, so Jen's just quoting me, prompting me. So in this gin, so when we go back to sort of making gin again, and we talk about it being very, very similar to cooking, in all gins, bar one that I can name, you always have what's called a fixative. So I liken it in baking to an egg. So an egg binds all the flavours together. It choked. I'm okay. I'll get through.
Worried.
You didn't look worried. You didn't even move. In the gin world, the sort of fixative is either angelica root or orris root. So angelica root is a very sort of neutral sort of flavour, offers a little bit of earthiness, which we use in our signature raspberry, but in our wild spirit, our dog's just started snoring. I hope that's not indicative of my speech.
Carry on.
Piss off. In wild spirit, we use orris root, which is the root from the iris flower, so it actually offers a sort of florality to it. So I've got florality, and it's quite viscous.
It was herbaceous as well.
I've said a bit of herbaceous, florality.
Done.
I'm out.
Thank you.
So, what else would you like to come on?
So,
that's a great, like I said, it's completely different to the sort of
It's
two
very
we've had
different.
already.
Yeah. So I was going to talk a little bit about our new home, which is the Spirit of Manchester Distillery, which is right in the centre of Manchester. So when we obviously launched from our dining room. And then about 15 to 18 months after we launched, we then moved into a railway arch just on the outskirts of the city, on a street called Temperance Street, ironically, which, if you don't know, means...
I didn't know when we moved there that what temperance meant.
Means
what
abstain-
temperance meant? That's not even English, that sentence.
Well, yeah.
I didn't know. No.
It means
Well,
abstaining from alcohol. So we moved into Temperance Street, and then it's not very, let's just say it's not very customer...
Let's say that it may or may not be a red light district as well. I think
red light is overplaying it.
What would you say? Like flashing, blinking.
There's
Anyway,
tonight.
yeah.
So it's not somewhere you would invite customers on to experience kind of the brand. It was very much an industrial sort of setup for us, and we'd always wanted that kind of customer experience. So in September last year we moved into our new home, which is right in the centre of the city, underneath what I know as the GMEX, but it's called Manchester Central. And that's currently where the NHS Northwest Nightingale, can't say that.
Northwest Nightingale, yeah.
Hospital is. So September we moved in there. Unfortunately, we are obviously closed at the moment. But it's beautiful. It's 6 grade 2-star listed railway arches.
If you go through our, is that on Instagram or Facebook?
I think it's on Instagram.
So if you go to about May last year, you'll see, because they were all blocked on, so we unblocked them, I say we, and I'm using the Royal Arena, so the builders unblocked them all to connect, so we've got 8 all in a row, but there's a video of me using a sledgehammer, very unsuccessful. But what I will point out is that if you do watch that video, it was 2 courses thick, that brick.
Yeah.
I hit it about 3 times, nothing moved.
Somewhere on our stories, there's one about the renovation, and you see Seb trying to use a sledgehammer. It's very much worth a watch if you get a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. But yeah, we kind of lovingly restored very carefully as well all these railway arches, and because of what they are, and because they're grade 2-star listed, we couldn't do very much. We can't do anything to the structure of them. So you'll notice if you come and visit, we have like copper plates.
Ornamental copper plates on the roof.
Because we just get
Get leaks.
periodically, but we can't touch the railway arches. There's nothing we can do, and there's a great big exhibition centre above us. So there's absolutely nothing we can do. They're designed to kind of for the water to sort of run off. So we just have like copper plates periodically to catch the rainwater and funnel it off somewhere. So
funnel it off somewhere. There's someone who didn't look at the drawings.
That was your job.
Yeah.
But what we are doing is we're aiming to be completely carbon neutral by the end of this year. Through kind of.
So we apologise about the horrendous amount of bubble wrap you've all received.
Yeah.
We can't source. Well, we were in the process of sourcing all the sort of paper versions of that.
Yeah.
But obviously, Corona being what Corona is, everywhere shuts down. So.
Yeah.
It will not be the same next year, but
No.
so we're aiming to be completely carbon neutral by the end of the year.
Yeah, so moving to renewable energy, where we have none of our waste goes to landfill. We're trying to minimise plastic that we use throughout the building. So yeah,
Our glass is now recycled.
our glass is now made from recycled glass.
So we saved. I'm going to make up a stat there.
I'm going to leave that with you. So
I think
you'll
it's over 50% carbon we've saved on recycling the glass rather than using.
So what you might notice is on if anyone's got any of our bottles that I don't know if you can see on here, but they're slightly different colour. So the one with the ever so slightly green hue is the recycled
Hue?
glass. Hue.
I like the word hue.
So carbon neutral by the end of the year. That's is our plan. Yeah.
Are we moving on?
We can do. What time is
You
it?
don't have to.
No, we've got a couple of minutes so we can enjoy.
You can just watch us drink now. So, what have you been up to recently? Anything in particular?
There was a shout out that we had to do to someone who is actually two people who are joining us tonight, who are actually having their wedding reception at our distillery next June.
June the 3rd, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is actually, so congratulations, what are we called?
Paul and Samantha.
So Paul and Samantha, congratulations, cheers.
Good luck for next year.
Yeah, so we were due to get married in, how long?
About 40 days.
So about 40 days, that's a weird way of counting it, isn't it?
You
could have gone with a month and a bit, but no, it's 40 days. So we've actually obviously had to move ours because of what's going on. So our new wedding is actually on the 3rd of July, so we'll be a month after you.
Yeah.
But interestingly, because of the weird rules with the government, we'll probably still be able to go on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Because we're going to Bordeaux, so
definitely doing that then.
Definitely doing that.
Don't forget,
need a treat.
Yeah, don't forget as well to send your cheers pictures as well at some point this evening. You know, maybe when you finish the
Should
gym.
we do one?
Let's not. We're on this, so no. You've gone for it. You've definitely.
How do you turn it around?
Stop it.
Cheers.
I hate my photo. Can we not?
Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. So we've done it. So you can. I mean, we can't win all this. I think that's fixing the.
Yeah.
vote.
So if you do the hashtag MCR gin tasting and tag us in it, you can win every single one.
We'll
of
give
our
you new
range.
bottles, not the ones that we've cracked open.
Every single one of our range. So you'll get our Overboard, which we must mention as well, which is our take on a navy strength. So it's 57%, more of a cocktail gin.
But. So, if we've got a couple of minutes, I'll say the reason. So, you might be thinking 57%, that is mental. And it is a bit boozy, I'm not going to lie, but the reason it's 57% and the reason that all Navy strength products, be it rum, be it whiskey, are always 57% or higher, all goes back to when they were transporting the gin in ships during wars, way back when. I'm not going to give a year, I'm going to be quite vague. But basically what they would do is they would store barrels of gunpowder next to barrels of gin. And God forbid if the barrels of gin leaked over the gunpowder, if it was at 57% or higher, it meant that the gunpowder, even when wet, would still ignite. And so that is why Navy strength products are always 57% and higher.
So yeah, so you can win you'll get signature raspberry, wild spirit and blackberry that we're going to come on to in a bit. You'll get a bottle of our Overboard. You'll get a bottle of our vodka as well, which is Manchester Spirit, which is quite a kind of like creamy vodka. And you'll also get a bottle of our Hacienda edition.
So I believe Becky Hook, Peter Hook's wife, and her friends are all taking part in this tonight.
So we should say
so quick
hello
shout out
to Becky.
Becky. How are we doing, Becky?
Yeah. Hope they're enjoying it. So yeah, you will, if you enter the competition, you will also get a bottle of our Hacienda edition as well. which, funnily enough, we've seen on eBay. Empty
Yeah,
bottle.
mental. So you can go on our website and buy it for 35 quid full, or you can go on eBay and buy an empty bottle for 110 quid. I'm going to let you decide which is the best way to go on
Yeah, mental.
that. Mental.
So yeah, I think we'll move on to our blackberry.
Can I slide that over there?
Okay, don't do that. Good lord.
What? I should have like a
There's
saloon.
there's a lid.
So, Blackberry is our most recent gin that we've come out with. Good lord, I've had too many
Launch.
gins already. This is our most recent launch. So this is Blackberry, and the reason it's got such a dark colour. Are you rinsing glasses while I'm trying to talk to the people?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You people.
So the people.
My people.
So the reason it's got such a dark hue is because actually 1/3 of it is blackberry juice. So it definitely counts towards one of your 5 a day, but I don't think your doctor's going to sign you off on it. So, so this is a sort of take on our sort of signature with a couple of extra botanicals in there, and then we actually we partially dilute it down. So 1/3 of the gin is actually blackberry juice. So when you try this,
It's juicy.
yes, so our brand manager, who may or may not be watching, he should be, James, came up with the tasting notes, and he described it as juicy
Juicy and jammy.
jammy.
It's very jammy.
It's very jammy.
And you do still get like juniper there, so it is, you know.
Yeah, it's a full gin, but you do get that big hit of jamminess and that full flavour. Like, it's moreish, but what we've teamed this up with, we need more ice. We need more ice.
Guys.
So we've teamed this up lastly with Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic for everyone there.
Where is it?
In the freezer. Where's the ice? It's in the freezer.
Yeah, but it's not in the usual drawer.
It's not in the usual drawer apparently. So this is Elderflower Tonic. So when you add this to the blackberry, you're right then. When you add this to the blackberry infused gin, for me, I think this actually tastes like a very local product to Manchester. I think it's like grown up Vimto. And it's very, very moreish, so I'll give it a run.
Again, this works really well. So we've got it with the elderflower tonic today, but it works really well with a classic Indian or a light tonic. Again, similar to raspberry, because you've got so much flavour in there, it's really robust, so you can really experiment with different tonics.
Really good Bramble. If anyone knows the cocktail of Bramble, it's a really good one.
I think we'll go blueberries and raspberries.
We're going blueberries and raspberries for garnish because what is the official garnish on this one?
We use blackberries.
We use blackberries officially, but again we don't have any, so we're going blueberries. So
Blueberries and raspberries.
for the last time this evening, shall we cheers?
We shall. Let me, finish.
I wish you should have done one that you prepared earlier. I don't think we're going to make it on TV.
I'm not.
Cheers.
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 Cheers,
Cheers.
guys.
Cheers.
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 Cheers. Any more shout outs we've got to do? Think we got a second?
I don't know.
I don't know. She can't be the auto cue.
No, we don't.
So, what would you like to discuss now? While we sort of,
Well, one of the things we do always get asked is why Manchester gin.
Fair point.
So we always get asked that, and for us, obviously, it's the greatest city in the world.
It is genuinely the greatest city in the world.
Especially because the weather is so nice at the moment.
Yeah.
I think normally, it's obviously very wet. But
Anyone that is a Mancunian, you have to accept the weather. So I moved here. Why am I tidying up? I don't know why. I felt the need to mop. I moved here 12 years ago, and I came here as a student. It must be 12 years ago. I don't know.
I think
Something
it's
like
about
that.
7 years, so it's not.
God, it must be more.
Yeah.
God, I'm
You're
old. Not as old as you
I'm
though.
older.
So anyway, so I moved here maybe 15. No, it must be 17 years ago. Anyway,
sorry.
whatever it is. But for the first 3 months I lived here as a student, it rained every single day. And that's your introduction to Manchester. But yeah, if it didn't rain, it would be the greatest city in the world. But, it does rain a fair bit.
Yeah.
This
So-
week is, unusual.
Yeah, but like for us, it's where we met, it's where we fell in love. It's
But it's also where we distill, bottle and label every single part of the product. So,
Yeah.
I think, you're going to call something Manchester Gin, I think you have to do it all in its namesake. I think that's fair to say. And we're really proud that, and we've always committed to, and we always will, distill, bottle and label every single drop of the delicious thing that you drink.
Yeah. And we're like very committed to the city as well. We do try.
We love the city.
We do try and do a lot in terms of like, you know, work with charities and stuff like that. It's the city's, you know.
Are you going down a path here that you can't get out of?
No, it's feeling very emotional.
It's feeling very emotional. Come here.
So
it's okay.
yeah. The other thing we always get asked is what's the best or worst thing about working together?
So I'm very honest. Genuinely, my favourite. So if anyone asks me this, like, what's the best thing about owning a distillery? Genuinely, my answer always is, it's having a desk that's directly opposite Jen, so that at any point during the day I get bored, I'm just like, what are you doing?
Pop it.
Pop it. Anyone in the office will contest. You'll hear me just go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that for me is that you know, that's the reason we opened this business together, is to always sort of be together. It's probably Jen's most hated part about.
No, it's not. Not.
You
at all.
always hate me doing this.
Well, yes, because I don't. But no, it's the best. Like I suppose I always say, like, my weaknesses are Seb's strengths. So I.
No. Oh no.
You were going to mock me for how I said that.
Oh well, yeah, you said it right though. Damn it.
I know it did.
Go on.
But no, we are very similar, but work very differently. So
She does things wrong.
I'm very thorough.
Wrong.
Seb's super laid back, and so I'm the one that's panicking with notes.
Yeah, these
and you know, shout outs.
So
No, don't do it.
these are Jen's notes for this evening. I figured if I don't know about my own life, I'm in a pickle.
Yeah, but I need a running order.
A running order. You've got the 4 gins in a row and just talk.
Yeah, there were notes.
Good lord.
So I'm like, you know, I like an order, I like structure, and I'm quite thorough, whereas Seb's just, you know,
breezy.
Breezy. So also, someone said, can we do a generic kind of sort of shout out, really? Because I think,
Hello!
I think there
Was
are...
that it?
No.
Alright, sorry.
Stop interrupting me. There are a lot of...
I shouldn't really shout, because our little boy is asleep upstairs.
So there are a lot of birthdays and like date nights.
So you want me to just say happy birthday?
Yeah, so I was going to say to anyone whose birthday it is, or anyone that's on a date night, I think someone's joined us.
On a date night?
No, who should be on their like African safari.
I can help with that.
So I think there's a couple who should be on their like African safari, like honeymoon at the moment. And if that's you, like big shout out to you guys.
If that's you, here is a tiger and a giraffe. So you've seen two good animals there. So who needs to go on safari?
No, but they should be on their honeymoon. So you know, like
this is better, right?
I think. Thank you for joining us. I hope it's. And also there's some birthdays. So Sally, Maureen, Julie, and Jim all have birthdays.
That didn't feel sincere.
Happy birthday.
And you're not on camera.
And 11th wedding anniversary.
11's a very special number to us. So
it is.
I'm born on the 11th. Jen's born in the 11th month. Our son is born on the 11th of the 11th. We were due to get married on the fucking 11th, but that's not happening.
Yeah.
Is there any more 11ths?
Maybe not so special.
No.
So yeah, happy anniversary if you're joining us on your anniversary. So you've taken all my notes away now.
I've messed up all in order
You
with
have.
the notes, so she is panicking. Someone got in the sink. They're wet.
So people want to know how much Seb has had to drink. This is
me.
Always Seb.
Unfortunately, this is what she puts up with on a daily basis. Morning, noon, night. I'm an irritant.
I love you.
I love you.
But no, this is Seb.
Unfortunately, this is me.
You guys a bit giddy.
I get giddy.
Have to, you know, rein him in every now and again. Yeah, so...
I was really nice for stroking there.
I think also a few people have also asked about kind of like different size bottles that we do and different products. So
Philip knows all well what we do.
Yeah, we've done a Jeroboam, which is 4.5 litres, so 9 of our bottles, which Seb is just getting from the other end of the...
So yeah, this is when you're having a particularly bad day, you get one of these badges. But I'm with Badger. Yeah. So the reason we had this made was because we wanted a giant bottle for our own house. And someone actually bought one before we... That's quite nice, isn't it? It's just rocking. Someone bought one from the distillery just before we went into lockdown. and he was doing it he was having a party, and his rule was no one's allowed to leave the party until that is finished, which I think is a cracking party.
So there's been a couple of other questions. So someone said, a great session delivered by Jen. Does the other fella have to join next time?
Fucking hell. Good Lord.
I love you. So Victoria's asked a question. Should you crush the fruit in the drink? That's a really good question. So for example, if you think about like a blueberry, I would say yes, because you want to pierce the skin so that the gin goes into the actual kind of heart of the fruit, really. For something like a raspberry, you perhaps don't need to quite as much. And for anything like, for a slice of like grapefruit, no, you don't necessarily need to squeeze it.
A middle ground though is if you prep up. So now tonight we're gonna have like this left. So what we'll actually do is we'll slice it into wedges and then freeze it.
If you freeze it in a single layer on a tray, and then once it's frozen, just chuck it into a bag, you've always got fresh fruit.
But because you've frozen it, you've actually broken the cell wall, so the actual juice will actually flow out a lot easier from a frozen fruit. So it'll keep the drink cooler, and it will also infuse in the drink a bit more for you. So there you go.
Someone's also asked about kind of where they can get like the tonic from. So we've actually obviously our bar and restaurant is closed, but we've just recently opened it. As a kind of off license.
Don't say off license.
I know, it's a horrible word, but as a kind of takeaway.
Community city centre luxury shop.
Spirit shop. That you can buy bottles and take them away. We also as we're making hand sanitizer at the moment. We've kind of we've shifted half of our production into making hand sanitizer, which we originally did for the Nightingale Hospital above us because they were struggling to get hold of it. So that's how we sort of started making it, and now we've just kind of carried on. So we're actually opening the bar and the restaurant as a personal sanitizer refill station. So anyone that's working in the city that has like a small like personal hand sanitizer bottle, like up to 500ml, for example, you can actually come to the bar and the restaurant and actually refill your bottle, and you just pay like a kind of cost for the liquid, basically. So we've opened the sanitizer station and the kind of the shop to take drinks away. So we are also selling tonics, but some of the Fever-Tree you can get in most places.
In mainstream supermarkets.
The main one that's probably harder to get hold of is the olive and rosemary, but I'm pretty sure you can get that in Co-op in like a little mixed pack.
That's a mixed pack.
A mixed pack. So Co-op, and I think Sainsbury's potentially have Franklin's as well. So. Yeah.
Have we covered everything from
I think we have, although there was a mention for Kelly, who's
Kelly.
On her lockdown hen weekend.
Cheers.
I assume you're all on a big Zoom call as well.
Yeah, Jen's supposed to be on her, is it next week yours?
Next week mine was supposed to be in Lisbon.
Well, Manchester's the same.
Yay.
Yeah.
So and then I think I think a couple of people have asked about the discount as well for the distillery visit. So obviously as part of buying the virtual tasting set, you get a discount as well. So that will be it will be emailed over to you. It'll probably be kind of more when we know when we can open at the moment. Obviously it's a bit unknown and we don't want to open it out when we don't know when we can open, but we have everyone's details and we will send
We'd love to see everyone there with
Yeah.
And you can come and actually touch Wonderwend, which is our 4.5 metre by 5 metre monster still, which produced all the delicious gin that you've tried tonight. So.
Yeah, I think Instagram is about to cut out, but we are at the hour, so
I think we're pretty much there.
So yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you.
We are, and you all are. Record breakers.
Oh, there we go.
So let's have a little cheers to being record breakers. So yeah. I think you were thanking people again.
I was just saying thanks to Philip because he's been on social, sending a big photo of the Jeroboam.
If you want to get us on the telly at any point, that's fine.
Not me.
Not Jen.
No,
No,
not Sam either.
Oh no. So yeah, no, it's been a really good. Obviously, stay safe, stay alert. Apparently, I'm getting political. I'm going to stop there. But yeah, we are, and what a great way to spend a Saturday night. We are officially.
Thank you for joining us.
Record breakers.
And supporting our charity as well.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Enjoy your weekend.
I hope you've got me a medal. I just get to keep talking now while Jen figures a way to close them down. Still not off. I mean, Insta's still going. Are you going to stop Instagram? That's still going.
Instagram's going.
We're not very tech savvy. I don't know if anyone spotted that.